Good afternoon, dear friends. Thank you very much for joining us. We were actually surprised and were wondering if anyone would join the last session, our session, which is called Digital Zen. This is one of the few sessions that has a presentation, and we would actually need it. First of all, I would like to introduce us to the participants of our session. Stanislav Korop is with the Bank of Russia, head of their Department of Financial Technologies. Natalya Voevodina, who is the chairman of management of Rosbank. Olga Sorokina, VSK Insurance House. Alexander Chernoshchyokin, Promsvyazbank. Natalya, Kozak, DOM.RF. Pyatkov with Alfa-Bank. And not with us physically, but with us online, Raphael Jansa, who is with the FinTech Association of Hong Kong. He can hear us, and the interpreters are here for him to share what is going on. I told you that I would tell you a little bit about our session. When we were told that the session will be called Zen, Digital Zen, what does it actually mean? I was wondering myself. We asked ChatGPT what Zen is, and it is a philosophy of reflection and achieving of the enlightenment. I think there will be no complex and sophisticated topics or issues for those of us who will be doing the session, but I think we will all enjoy, both the participants and the speakers. Feel free to scan this QR code where you will see the list of the technologies and the questions. It would be really appreciated if you could answer those questions. They would be very useful for us. One of the questions will be about the technologies, and later, towards the end of the session, we'll compare your answers. So let's, without further ado, let us start. Zen. Our session consists of two different parts. It's a form of contemplation and the perspective, and we'll be talking about the future. So, the contemplation. These are the slides that you can see. We actually used them a bit of quite a while ago, about 8 years ago, at different conferences, where we were trying to look at the trends that exist in our world, like the fast development of digital services and technologies. There's different analytical reports and different other reports. I won't go into much of a detail, but I think hopefully whenever I'll be asking the questions to my colleagues here on the panel, as you can see here, 2006, 2016, and then later the future. I mean, like in 2016, we are talking about about clouds, about mobile apps, about digital currency, iPhone, big data, and all other topics. So, that's what we were talking during the time, and about those technologies that are influencing the market. There were some things that happened, some things are still yet to come. So on this, today, as we see, when we look at them, we see how the digital world is changing our society and the humanity itself. All of these processes that are quite complicated, there's no like virtual reality revolution or maybe other things, but there are certain things that are happening. And the first question that I have for our colleagues here is for our colleague from Hong Kong, Mr. Jansa. He's presenting what is happening in Asia. So between the technologies of finance, where the new formats of cooperation exist, I'd like to ask for his opinion how technologies in Asia sort of blow up the market in the financial markets, for example. Raphael, I hope you can hear us. Yeah, but
greetings to everybody in this call here from Hong Kong. So I understand the question is about which technologies have been disrupting markets here, and what is the level of digitization that has been changing in Asia. So from a technology point of view, I would probably highlight 4 streams, which probably all of them sound familiar to you. Number 1, I would say, and the biggest of all, I think, was the advent of open banking. When we saw for the first time that banks and then later insurances got a nudge, or maybe were even forced to open up their client profiles to allow innovation. Yeah, of course, with the consent of the customer. And from a technology point of view, it was actually not so much of a big task, but more importantly, it was really a change of mindset for the traditional finance industry as to what is coming their way. And in the wake of that movement, and one step further, to give even more competition to the incumbents, we saw the development of digital-only banks and digital-only insurances. Yeah. So, for example, in Hong Kong, we have 8 digital-only banks and 4 digital-only insurances that give a lot of competition to the incumbents. Now, and in the last step into this open banking development, we would be the concept of embedded finance and embedded insurance. So, where financial services are actually bundled in a package that is not provided by the banks, but from a normal industry companies. So that's the first one. The second one, what was big, has been the advent of virtual assets and crypto. Now, with all the potential and the flaws that it has or may have, it arguably created a very new asset class. And whether it serves as a means of payment or transfer value, I think that the jury is still out for that, for many reasons. But it's certainly something that has tremendously changed the landscape here, both from a technology point of view, but also from a regulatory oversight point of view. And in the wake of these developments, we saw the concept of central bank digital currency evolving, and also, of course, stable coins. Yeah. Now, if I was to again look into Hong Kong and China, I think in Hong Kong we are one of the very few jurisdictions that are doubling down on virtual assets and then Web3 activities. So we really believe this is something that's here to stay. While we, for example, in the mainland China, so it remains a no-go area. So both from a mining and actual usage perspective. So it's very interesting to see how both markets actually take a very different views in that. And from a stable coins and CBDC perspective, we do have legal frameworks in place in Hong Kong. The regulators have been very, very active in providing a clarity and a room to operate for anything happens in this regard. Currently, our regulator is exploring, or even further than exploring, the use of retail CBDC, so an e-Hong Kong dollar. Now, in my opinion, I think a wholesale CBDC would be more suitable here than a retail one, because we are clearly not underbanked or don't have too little opportunities to make payments here. So in this regard, I'm actually also we are from FinTech Association, we are quite happy that the regulator takes a careful approach to this and really wants to see through use cases emerging as opposed to forcing CBDC on it. So from an approach perspective, it should be a solution to a problem, not a solution in search of a problem. And I think that's a very good way. And then in mainland China, we have the e-CNY, the e-renminbi is already out. But again, the thought of many, it's not throughout the entire country. And frankly, it's mostly used from consumer to government payments. And also some government employees can now receive their salaries through e-CNY. But from a commercial point of view, the Alipay and WeChat Pay are just so dominant that it's very difficult for CBDC to get traction there. So that's the second point. The third one I would say would be robo-advisors and wealth management, especially in the B2C space. I think this is a very good example of how the use of data analytics have found its way into banking with these alternative data-based investment advisors. And last but not least, the fourth one would be, as we all know, the upcoming, the coming up of generative AI. So with all the fascination of the possibilities it can bring, but also the scary side of it that can accelerate cyber attacks and ethical considerations that have to be factored in to limit its use to avoid, blurry lines between what is real versus what is deepfake. I think those four are the critical one. And then if I was to say something on the business digitization, here it's very interesting because we see the consumers behave very different than the businesses. So the consumers are very open to try new things and are in many ways already used to a very digitized way of trade and financial services. Also because in our part of the world, we have a very young, many countries that have very young societies. So they're more open to that. And many e-commerce companies in the region have been involving mobile payment companies with high adoption rates. Digital banks and digital insurances, are sweeping through the B2C markets. So from a consumer adoption perspective, it's very good. Businesses themselves tend to be more cautious and conservative. So apart from maybe the user experience part for B2C companies, that is something they look into. But for a back-end operation, they're really trailing maybe other parts in the world. So it's more of a concept where you don't fix anything that's not broken. So it's a very different approach with businesses that are way more conservative. Of course, banking as a service or RegTech solutions are as relevant here as they are maybe in your market and other markets, and the businesses tend to be a little bit more careful.
Спасибо, Филипп. Да, аплодисменты.
Thank you very much.
If you allow me, I would not summarize the Raphael's speech. As a moderator, I can afford that. I will readdress this issue in case Stanislav wants to ask a question. And my question is the following. My question is addressed to Stanislav. In those years, if I'm not mistaken, you were in the very middle of all the events. Even the first Finnopolis Forum was organized by you. You were one of the organizers. And looking back, what are the trends were determined by the Bank of Russia in 2015, 2016 as a trendsetters, allowing to develop financial industry? What was the most demanded, and where you were right, where you were wrong? Thank you very much. Digital Zen, evening session, and the full hall. It's something astonishing. I took off my tie, and I feel uncomfortable, and Sasha even changed. Thank you very much for coming. It means that this subject is in demand. First, you addressed the GDP chart, asking what is this? When we offered the name of the subject, the source was GPT chat as well. 2015, yes, they had a conversation, they had a dialogue. Wonderful. 2015, we invented Finnopolis, within the framework at another department which does not exist anymore, and I had no idea that in 8 years I will come back here as a speaker. It was such an interesting memory for me. We invented it for the one purpose, and this purpose is still there, which is the most important. At that time, we were missing a platform to speak without mass media, desirably, but it didn't work, to speak with the market about the financial innovation. We were missing the discussion club, a platform where we could simply ask about the vision, ask the market, are we right or not? And we wanted to make this forum make this forum a homework. It was announced at the plenary session. It's very trendy. I believe that Finnopolis is different from the majority of similar events because we summarize everything that we have to do in accordance with the market, and the market realizes what it shall do in accordance with the regulators. We undertake obligations and reliabilities. It's very important. It's very practical point. I believe that we shall maintain this tradition. In regards of technologies, I don't remember exactly what we were thinking about technologies back in 2015, but I believe we were not mistaken. We did not determine the technology of distributed register. Big data, smart data, which were the opposite artificial intelligence, but very carefully. Remote identification, free information exchange and partnership API, and something unknown about the neobanks, the robo-advising, crowdfunding, all of that came true in financial organizations. What really worked and what was obsolete? I would start with the most overestimated technologies. Distributed register. Here in this world we do not mention some tools which are based on technologies of distributed register. I take as a base such a classical blockchain technology which is introduced by the business companies for different purposes in different scenarios, which is a workflow, reports, accounting, corporate confirmation, adoption, not only in Russia but in the world. These technologies are introduced very carefully, very slowly. It's very nice to quote the FinTech Association survey. It's always a good thing to quote them, take them as a reference. We use 6% and 13% as a pilot, a very low percentage. In regards of the remote identification, this is where we were right. The business was digitalized, immersing itself into the digit. Me, as a client, can't understand where I shall go personally to receive a service. It's counterproductive to my point of view. 2018 is the start of biometric systems. It was launched, and we dedicated a lot of time to discussion on this topic. I believe that this trend is very topical. It's very crucial. For us, it's very important to make this service very high frequency and convenient. And the law was adopted after the Finnopolis. The federal law number 572 was adopted, which started the epoch of renaissance or relaunch of the biometric technologies. I believe that biometrics is a very good technology, which comes really timely, which is capable to fix the misunderstanding of a person. When people do not understand why they should go somewhere, you can order anything to be delivered. Services can be delivered as well. Speaking about big data is some part of the artificial intelligence which feeds it. Previously, we were talking about big data as a trend. If you ask me now, I would probably say that trend is a potential lack of big data. We have the main fuel for a module, first of all, According to forecasts of the experts, if I'm not mistaken, and I will check if I am right, I will double check, by 2026, information resource for learning can be exhausted. If we consider language massive of low quality, it's even 2030. If the rates of artificial intelligence development continues like that, we will see that in the next 5 to 10 years, we will witness the total lack of what we call big data. And especially important here is the high-quality synthetic data. We will expand on that later. Probably. What else? Free information exchange. We were focused on the partnership API. We didn't know that in a short period of time we will start a big project related to regulation API. Free is a very good term, is a very good word. I believe that infrastructural decision as a digital profile, which we have been discussing at the forum, is for exchange. There are different initiatives, separated initiatives, all dedicated to one thing, so that people could manage their own data without barriers. These trends were highlighted then in the past. They are important now, and in many of them we have very good results. That would be it. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I believe that we immerse deeper into this Zen, into this Nirvana. And the question is to Natalya, who is representative of the banking business, which is very conservative, who somebody said in Finapolis that the banking business didn't change since it was established. Which technologies became a catalyst for your business model change, operation model change? And to your point of view, is your organization then and now different? Is it a result of evolution? Which technologies influenced this crucial transformation or development? Thank you very much for the question. This session is very interesting because it made us to stop, to remember ourselves 8 years ago and to come back here to the present. And in the second part, we will look to the future. The scenario is really amazing and it's very interesting. I asked the colleagues to have a brainstorm together with me. Which technologies inspire us 8 years ago? And today you have demonstrated the words. The words are the same. To be honest with you, big data, AI, blockchain, distributed register, finance, all of that seems to be part of the agenda 8 years ago. But in regards of the qualitative part, it was different. Now I can recall that we were talking a lot about, for example, robotization of process, calculating RPI innovation. Speaking about innovations, we were speaking a lot about the robots, which can be programmed by any person because it's very easy to set the actions in the system. We call them digital assistants. Remember process mining lean, which was automated -6, 4, 8 years ago. The technologies which we used, which led us to a very efficient result in the banking sphere, which in general allow us to efficiently manage our resources, to search the right service for the clients. But we do not discuss that. We discuss not big data, not artificial intelligence. Today, we realize what makes AI different from generation point of view to predictive point of view. And 8 years ago, we were trying to improve the accuracy of predictive models. We were saying, yes, we have default predictive models for the risks and for banks. It was very important. That is why we are the drivers, we are the locomotives. But different practices were the background for these words. and intensity of application in the banks. Retrospectively, if we analyze what was assessed or under-assessed, I would agree with Stanislav. Work with data, big data. 3 or 4 years ago, we in Rosbank initiated a strategy on data-driven bank, and for me it was really weird that it has to lead us to AI strategy of a bank. 5 years ago, I didn't see the difference. And general awareness or consciousness of using of these words in practice was different. The banks were expecting the results of blockchain application, disintermediation, distributed register. It seemed like we don't need a bank or the stock exchange infrastructure. And McKinsey, in their survey, say they took the rates of the banks globally for the last 10 to 15 years and analyzed how they changed in proportion to the assets. The indicator of the banks decreased constantly. All the global banks have less units because an investor does not connect the future with the traditional banking model. Nevertheless, the banks are still alive because they know how to adapt, and their nature allows them to use the data about the clients. Many banks has already overcame the situation when they needed external data for feeding their system. If we analyze our past, these are the same words, but the journey was really big as well. And thanks to the platforms, such as international platforms and regulators platform, which was a driver, which controlled the changes and was monitoring everyone so that all of us could be at the same level, more or less, we have a very strong banking industry, which in general is capable to adopt from traditional banking model of growing itself with the partners using open banking, AP, partnership. The words are the same, the meaning is different. Very interesting. Thank you very much.
It's very interesting. Same technologies, but we have a different attitude and different application of that. In our first plenary session, that when we have a main driving train, I mean, shall we connect different compartments to it? Shall we create something? And for example, if we look in the insurance world, there are certain things that are sort of lacking there. And if you look at the insurance world, I mean, can you tell us how your world have changed and developing? How are you able to catch up with the whole technology sort of eruption? There are certain English words that we are no longer encouraged to use in our jargon, but if you can use whether English or Russian words and share what kind of technologies in the insurance world are using and what is the attitude towards the technologies, how they've been changing. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Maxim and the FinTech Association. The revolution that is happening on the market is happening thanks to the government and to the state. It sort of gave us a playground where new businesses coming in and we can all develop together. And Stas, thank you to you as well. I did not know that you were one of the founders of this particular forum, and sort of the idea of doing homework and following up with assignments, it's great. It's great that whenever something comes up here at the platform, we got to go back, work on it, and get back. Another challenge is with deadlines that are there for the new reports, working on that homework assignment and bringing it for the next forum next year. So what was happening? First of all, we had a bit of quite a tough challenge with the competition. Digitalization. What was happening then? Whenever you have that, it's not something, there is a bit of a context there that you no longer can enforce certain things on a client, on a customer. I mean, if you talk about Elon Musk, I mean, who's the head like in space technologies, and with here in Russia with Roscosmos, I mean, we've got some people who are doing something, and in the insurance world, yeah, we sort of like can admit that there are certain things that we are doing. But the business models that are challenges for the insurance companies. And first of all, as you know, insurance companies, this is financial companies. We need to calculate in the right way the risks that are there, whether we're dealing with banks or with clients, and no matter what the crisis is and whatever that is, we got to be supportive. And next one is new products, new insurance products. There's quite a lot of diversity. And I mean, how to analyze data for new products, and as you understand, insurance companies do use a lot of data. So what does it mean? We gotta understand the needs of our client. We try to fill the gap and fill those needs of the client. We switch to them service provision. I mean, in the past, the insurance companies would pay whatever the insurance, if there was an accident or your house got flooded. Yeah, the insurance company would be there. It would take some time, but they would pay up. But now what is happening? Whenever there is an accident, you need an immediate answer. New car, new medical assistance and whatnot. Things are much faster right now, because the insurance companies currently are more than happy to do everything at its best for the client, so he would get healthier, so he would get that new car or whatnot. So this idea transformation that is happening, there's a lot of work behind the scenes there. And whenever you talk about the technologies, you got to look at what's happening inside the organization itself. So no new technology will, unless they're supported by the top management, they cannot just happen this way. So it's kind of what's important. If you look at what has been happening in the last few years, the change of the innovation have been reached by us, and it was not like pushed and forced by the top management. No, it was a bit of a more natural sort of work and transition. So scale fragile framework, that's one of the services, or one of the ways we use. The IT developments of new products and methodologies that are safe, as we call it here. So a lot of top management was quite skeptical about it before. Was sort of thinking, should we maybe try a few of them? But recently, we sort of like we agree that we gotta use them all. And although innovation itself cannot be sort of forced on others, but we are welcoming. And the operational departments, of different insurance branches all over the country of Russia, they started to use AKR. Before that, we could not have thought even that this would be happening on such a scale and with so much innovative technological products. I'm sorry, and the ecosystem that we try to create right now. I mean, for let's say for a businessman, it's not just the medical, it's not just his car insurance, but it's also for his family and the family that have certain risks and we as an insurance company, we don't want to just take care of that. We're thinking more right now as a platform and addressing not just the personal needs, but we're using our whole platform to sort of expand as much possible and provide as many products as possible. API integration that we have. I mean, today we had covered that in another session. And we were talking there at that previous session about the open data. So whenever, even if you have just one partner, the integration with integration with another partner through API. I mean, we had about 4 different kind of companies that were involved, and all of that happened without without any big issues. Although our insurance company is all over Russia. And none of them can happen without the transactional lags that do happen, unfortunately. But whenever we were developing a new strategy, there was quite a lot of diversity there. And we were looking at the market, we were looking at the West, we were looking at Asia. All of it, they're sort of like package solutions that I offered. So we decided to go take a risk and form our own sort of like approach. 70% of our service is through the microservices, and the government supported it. Currently we're in the situation that does exist, the import exchange. So whenever we cannot import certain products, services, or anything, we got to come up with our own version. What is happening right now, that no matter where we lack in terms of not being able to bring the new services, we gotta come up with our own. When we formed this micro system, we call this platform Marlene, and it's a platform that allows to create in a very safe way new services. And it's just anything that we need currently. And if you look at things retrospectively, as Stanislav, there's a certain spiral dynamics, as it was called. And I think Maxim being in a different position at a different company. I mean, he was coming up with this idea of digital Zen and other things that we're discussing today. Thank you very much, Maxim. So back in 2016, he was actually also being one of the guys of Finopolis. Maxim, if something goes wrong, I know whom to talk to. Thank you very much. That's it for me for now. You see, I mean, there's quite a lot of diversity and different dimensions. It's more than 3-dimension world that we sort of created during our discussion. The feeling that we have and the attitude that we have to this new digital world, looking at the world using products and new products. If we talk about your particular bank, which is quite a good example of how the world, and a very conservative world, can change. And Promsvyazbank, not a lot of people can argue that already this particular bank is a digital bank as well. But I wonder when it happened, when this driver transformation sort of happened. What happened when the top management sort of like had to accept the idea and go with it. So, and what were the technologies that influenced all of that process? So, talking about the transformation, as some of you might notice at previous sessions, I was wearing a tie. Now I feel sort of more relaxed. And if we think of our forum 2016 and 18, there were more people at that time wearing just a hoodie and jeans. But now things are changing. And a human being cannot be constantly going through change all the time, but they do happen. And then they go through some transformation, but then they also go back into their maybe previous state. So in our financial system, we're at the point when we need a next leap. Just personal opinion about the previous sessions yesterday and today. Bank of Russia was right to say about AI, we will not regulate it. We will not be looking or touching it. And it makes sense. I mean, in the last few years, there were a lot of startups, but actually the number has recently decreased because there was a lot of attempt to control it. When we're talking about clouds, blockchains, and others, why did not explode in a positive way? But things are quite centralized in our society, and certain technologies and its distribution, the new technologies, they don't always pick up. So, and the story for the next, and the time for the next digital and technological revolution has come. We need to try new models in AI, biometrics. We used to hope that biometrics would work, but things didn't go that well. But no, we still have that hope. We still have that hope that it's going to be happening in the next few years. So what is actually moving people and those people who are doing that revolution? These are the people who are excited and passionate, who look at the reality as something they can change. When we're looking at the global market in the last 5 years, we were looking at the points where we can be strong. In retail, it's hard to catch up with things because there's nothing new per se. But there is still competition, let's say with Alfa-Bank and their budget 20-30 billion rubles in marketing budget. So other banks look at other things and they try to assess whether it's football on TV, and they throw their budget in marketing through that. So anyway, we need to find something new which is not centralized. We're looking at new businesses. So looking at services, the digital revolution has not happened yet. So, anyone could ask maybe for the credit for the loan from the bank, being just a regular person. But if you're a company, you would still need to go to the bank physically and apply for that loan and everything. But, everyone says thanks to the regulators. And they were talking to the central bank about stopping some of the instructions that are imposed on, the legal companies, legal entities. They do need sort of like simplified processes to apply for loans. But whatever happened after that, when things got more digitalized, right now, without taking any documents per se, you can request a loan, and these credits that just went everywhere in the last few years, for small businesses in particular.
SMEs are really good provided with the loans. During the pandemic, we had to provide loans as soon as possible in order to support the SMEs and to maintain the sale repayment. And we, over the 2 months, we provided 20,000 loans. It was just a bottom pressed all the time. This is how it functioned. At that very step, we realized that we have to analyze the niches which stay at the market and to continue digitalization and to be strong where the colleagues do not present. We analyze the market and we see that the volume of data accumulated in the open database, auctions, tenders, public purchasing, taxation services, data, there are many of them. To make very obvious decisions, you don't need an advisor. You have to collect all that, you have to analyze that. And after that, you shall say, the client manager, do you believe in this company? And this person will go and sell. Over the last year, we have made decisions to provide loans for 2.3 trillion rubles. And we can provide loans just giving a flash card, a USB, with the electronic signature. From the point of view of digitalization, it's something that makes us very excited that we can become the best bank in this segment with the loan provision, involvement of the team and believing that persuaded our bosses and we generated income, profit. Because when you don't have a big number of loan advisors and the security in the country goes down, your forecasts go to the space. We realized that this was the perfect model. Digital pledges, when we realize who is the property owner, and we ask the loan applicants to make a video of everything he or she possesses. The next step is to provide loans for the construction sites, because the typical projects are very simple. It costs a lot from the point of view of analysis, but if we realize what we are paying for, it's not very complicated. And the next step, again, is a generative AI, estimation of the project financing. We believe in this track. We invest money actively. Of course, we, together with colleagues, just repeat the decisions which proved to be right ones. We're experimenting, we go forward. I believe that in this part, the time for revolution is always there. Just don't stop and drive, be a driver for the changes. Thank you very much, Alexander, who proceed from the retrospective to prospective. And the question is addressed to Nikolay Kozak. I believe that your bank, your group of companies is a very good example of dramatic transformation. You have transformed not only a bank, but an industry in general. What is your opinion about the past? What technologies, or maybe we are outside this narrow space of technology? What was an impetus? If I looked back, I wouldn't have worked with Vitaly Mutko. I am here thinking about Zen. We are talking about Zen. Every day we are training to take part in the Olympic Games and because the DOM.RF combines two aspects, banking and construction, and these two locomotives are trying to drive the same line, the same railway, and to stay integral at the same time. I will expand on technology, but on technology of persuasion. I would agree with the colleagues that no transformation is possible without persuasion, which means discussion, selling ideas, good books, etc. It's work with people. Number two, leadership technology. If there is no leader, and if there are no big leaders who establish the teams, nothing is possible. Nobody will do that. Will AI replace a human being? Never. Because it has some limitations. It doesn't have a will, if to be brief. That is why, first of all, it's a team, people, and all the technologies which we were taught. We shall remember about that. Number two, if we dwell on the technologies, we cannot say that 10 or 8 years ago we relied on something special. We are constructors, we are builders. We started with the foundation. We collected data for a long time. Now it allows us to launch many projects related to the AI. Unified information system of residential construction, which has already accumulated a lot of data, which is very important for financing, for our packages, etc. Number two, information modeling technologies. 3 years ago, it was difficult for us to find the difference between BIM, team, etc. And now we managed to realize that we are designing the models developed by regions. It's mobile technology, it's web, and probably the most important point is that we were building this cybersecurity system for a long time. It was very robust. We were conflicting bank and the construction part of our company, but luckily we are still there, we still function. And which is also important, and I would like to express my respect to Vitaly, the technology of thinking in a very big scale. You have a lot of agendas. It's public agendas, super services, big information systems which have their separate life. The second agenda is business agenda. You invent a business application, you think how to provide import substitution of ABS, of a processor, etc., etc. And of course, the task is to make a department better than in Alfa-Bank. So the third agenda is the court. Different technologies, all of these are drivers. And to finalize that, Maxim, everyone say thank you, and this thank you to you for building such a comfortable and safe environment for discussion, for exchanging opinions, and that would be it. Thank you very much. Everyone has some interesting ideas. Think high, think wide, don't forget about the foundation. On the first slide, there was a very strange person on the cloud, suspended, without foundation. Olga and Natalya also were mentioning that. We have to remember that such disruptive technologies did not include that, but without this foundation, nothing is possible. Ivan. Alexander gave me a pass. He said that in 2018 everybody was wearing hoodie, now we are wearing suits. Alfa-Bank, technological leader, was also a technological leader for me. And as far as I remember, on the horizon of 2017-2018, you have eliminated your Alpha Lab, very successful laboratory, and you said that, okay, it's a task of the whole business. What happened at that moment? The whole Alfa-Bank started wearing hoodie or suits. Both are good, but nevertheless, what was so special about this year for you? What was the breaking point, and what is the technology? Maxim, I invite you to come to our office and you will witness what we are wearing, all the employees of Alfa-Bank. These days we have a very beautiful booth here. A lot of people wearing very beautiful red-colored sweaters. And of course, the technologies of laboratories, a lot of banks, a lot of organizations established laboratories. Why do you need this laboratory? When you have to, in a short period of time, to give an impetus to a particular area. Laboratory cannot live forever. Its task is to form a competence and to distribute that for the whole organization. That is why it has stages of development. Obviously, when a bank realizes that digitalization has already penetrated into all these spheres, relations with client, operation support, it became a bank competence. We closed a laboratory, but we opened something else. And I believe that you have visited our new mixed laboratory. It's not a new, it was opened 3 years ago, if I'm not mistaken. The colleagues were speaking about digitalization, and I maybe will be their opponent, because I believe that currently we are at the stage of digital sobering, if I could say so. Digitalization is our life, but we shall not pray for it. We shall not take it as a religion. There is no problem to invent technology and to introduce it, so we need some money and some brains. Very important is to understand why you are doing that and what are the tasks which you are going to resolve using these technologies. That is why we focus mainly on in study of clients' experience, in understanding clients' problems. Sometimes it's obvious, but sometimes it's not. And you have to invest a lot of efforts, your intellectual resources, your hands, to make very convenient client service. That is why we do not have our old Alpha laboratory, but we have the most advanced in Russia laboratory, and we invite you because we have reference visits organized to this laboratory. I was looking at these circles, what we were dreaming about in 2006, 2016. I believe that at these years we didn't think that we will develop web banking in 2022 or 2023. The agenda is changing dramatically, but I can say that I am confident that Russia has the best internet banking in the world. Life forced us to make it, and we accepted the challenges, and we implemented the solution which allows us to overcome the limitations imposed by the world, and the world is very concentrated. We were speaking about the dictatorship of platforms. Unfortunately, it happened, and we are the hostages of platforms which do not allow us to use them. And we have to maneuver, we have to find the ways to overcome these problems. We shall invest a lot of time in that, but we learned how to resolve these tasks. It doesn't matter which technologies you use, the key thing is what is the purpose. At this Finopolis, we speak a lot about artificial intelligence. And this is the task which we started developing from the end. We realize how the technologies shall be installed, introduced, but we started with the hackathon in the bank. 700 teams are thinking about the case, in which very cases we can apply these generative models. We will select the best scenario, and after that we will think on application of technologies and how to make it our everyday tool. I believe it's very important. For example, in the Amazon, they write the press report, press release. After that, they form the target vision, and after that, they develop the project. I believe this is a very good approach. Why it's impossible to make a person something secondary? We believe that our digitalization is based on digital solutions, which will be a foundation for the big, large-scale business. Last year we had an experiment, very unusual one, and there were only few people who trusted in that. There were many opponents, but nevertheless we tried. And despite the fact that we can attract clients, we know how to do that using digital channels in internet. And where was the one city where we decided that we shall open a micro office. Our offices are called Nano Office. And in the city, I will not give the name of the city. We have attracted 200 to 300 clients via internet. We delivered the cards. They used the banking, but we opened the office. Everybody said that it's cannibalization. The flow from the internet will undergo transition to the office, but the result was very interesting. The department started generating new clients, but the internet participation also doubled. There were no additional advertisement activities, and there is an explanation for that. No matter what happens, people change slower than technologies, and people have a feeling of danger. For them, it's very convenient to choose a bank, to know that there is a building of the bank, and if something happens, they can come there. You can agree or disagree. You can say that it's a way back to the past, but we implement the very large-scale program. We open about 300 offices in the cities with a population of 300,000 people. It seems counterintuitive, but it allows to attract much clients. And we multiply the number of clients. We do not change our plans and the volume of investment in development of technologies. It's not a contradiction. In the last case, yesterday, the session, we were speaking about the remote identification, video identification. Even 1 year ago, we went to the central bank promoting this idea, and we explained that it will allow us to open accounts remotely to attract the clients. And now we have a delivery service which can reach 95% of the population of the Russian Federation. To be honest with you, I do not want to go further to the remote identification, because when our employee comes to a client, he or she gives the card, allows to optimize it, downloads the application, if it's an iPhone, not Android, and also can do a lot of interesting things related to onboarding, which multiplies our sales. We cannot achieve that only in digit. Luckily or unluckily, we have to explain everything to a person. It is time intensive. And of course, the offices allow us to do that. And the delivery service is a separate type of sales. So when we, together with the clients, can discuss everything in details, and we can achieve a lot of things. I don't want to proceed with the remote identification because I know that I lose a quality of service rendered. There are many aspects. We shall not take some technologies as a religion, and we shall remember about people and our clients. Thank you very much.
Друзья, вы нас еще немножко...
Dear friends, I hope you can be patient with us. We're sort of like, when you're in Zen mode, time cannot be controlled, if I can joke like that. So, but it's good that we also talked about the future, although we were talking about the retrospective. The last part of our discussion will be short. Could you please give us the last slide? Yeah, I'm going to be the one going to be giving you the last slide. You remember I was asking you to scan that QR and sort of like answer the question. These were the trends that we shared them. And these are the trends for 2023 within the framework of our analytical work. Yeah, I'd like to ask a person responsible for it to stand up. He's standing up in the hall. So we've made a short update before the session, and all of you casted your vote. What I'd like, if you cannot see maybe some of the slides, but could you please name at least 3 different trends, at least 3 that some of the people will be discussing in the future in the next few years? So how do we see the future from this year of 2023? So yeah, I'm not ashamed to actually to say that. But if you look at the program of our platform, Finapolis, I mean, definitely AI, and that was one of our reports from the platform about how things are developing, how fast things develop. And the report, we put a lot of work into it. So the first one is AI, the omnipresent AI. Second one is the ecosystem and the data exchange in open API. With the last report of BM Bank for International Settlements, if we go back, from my perspective, of course, the omnipresent AI. I mean, that will be one of the biggest trends, in my opinion, and all of that can help us in different ways. The second one, the trend that is maybe that is overlooked, to the smart contracts in the world of high stakes. I think it can bring a lot in terms of capital efficiency and other instruments of those smart contracts that are used by different companies. I mean, that is definitely quite a big trend, and I believe that we put a lot on it. The sovereignty of the technology and the regulation of it, these are two different things that you would not call them sexy per se, but that is our reality, and that is something we got to work on. We might need to reinvent the wheel to copy paste what already exists in the world out there and try to do it better. But that is something that is on our agenda, and also Finapolis is one of the platforms which talks about it. Thank you, Olga. All right. First, what about you? Yeah, I would agree with Ivan, having thought about the previous Finapolis last year. As a bank, we're entering the ecosystem where we're sort of fighting, competing with big tech companies, and now at another session, I mean, there were a lot of big tech companies represented. But what I want to add, the digital diffusion, it's quite a serious trend. I mean, to be honest, I mean, there's quite a lot of syncretism and sort of mixture of things that is happening at the moment in the world. Whether it's medicine, whether it's services, whether it's dealing with banks. So, yeah, AI is helping with some of the issues that are out there for us. But dealing with our clients, I mean, who are maybe getting tired of too much digital things, and we might need to go back maybe in some ways to some other conservative ways. So, I mean, there's certain security in the traditional way at the same time, but internet is still absolutely needed and useful. As for me, I do believe in open API and the biometrics. This is something that will be changing our lives in a very drastic way. When I'm talking about AI, yeah, of course, yeah, all of us go wow about it. But I don't think it will actually be that big of a wow, to be honest with AI. So, but that's just my opinion. So the sovereignty of the FinTech, cybersecurity, and as for me, I believe in AI. Thanks. We're on the brink of sort of like certain outburst. The DEFI. So it's been something that has been happening for quite some time. Second thing for me, it's the new life of biometrics. developments in that area. They might give us a new wind, sort of a look, and how we can adapt it, how we can use it. The financial sovereignty. It's not necessarily like too exciting, but it's something we got to do. But I think with time, all of that will be in its own place, and we'll see how things go. So, if it's possible, I'd like to look at the results of your vote that was done by the audience. I don't think you see it. We are here. So yeah, first of all, is the omnipresent artificial intelligence for the most part. 33 people agreed, so 66% of the audience. The ecosystem on the data exchange and open API, that took the second place. The third point is, I'm sorry, the seamless identification. The fourth one, digital currencies of central banks. The decentralized finances, or DeFi. I hope that whatever happens in, like, let's say eight years, and they might dig out these slides that might be dusty already. But I hope those people who come after us in 8-10 years, I mean, they'll be able to say, yeah, you were not wrong, guys. And the central bank will adapt and certain things and sort of go with time. So I'd like to ask Philippe, if Philip is out there with us in Hong Kong, would you like, I'm sorry, not Philip, Raphael. So, Raphael, what do you think? I mean, is that something you could share? What is happening? What is your perspective about what's coming for us? Not coming for us, but coming in the future. Raphael, sorry, your name was... Yeah, go ahead, please.
I think from a regulatory framework perspective, I come back to Gen AI. We have not even touched on the surface of what this can do from a transformation point of view, both the good and the bad. And for the bad, we have to sort out the frameworks in each jurisdiction to make sure it's within the lines of ethical usage. And why is this so important is because maybe the next technological big jump will be to see quantum computing coming into the mainstream, and we better have this all sorted out before that happens. And then from a commercial point of view, I can share with you this. With every company I talk here, they have two projects running for sure. One on green tech and ESG. So all the companies try to do the right thing because this is what employees expect, this is what society expects, this is what clients expect. Of course, every company tries to figure out what is the right thing to do, and that's what they're grappling with. And the second reason why they want to do this is because banks are now tying their services, most notably their credit lines and conditions of credit lines, to compliance with ESG scores. So technology that tracks such and makes possible automated decision upon aggregating relevant data, both publicly available and that is inherent to the client, is important to make such then scalable. And the second project that every company is running or looking into is tokenization of real-world assets, and I think some of you have mentioned that before. Now, for us here in our market, there's three particular use cases. One is real estate, one is art, for fractionalized investment opportunities, and client deposits, so tokenization of client deposits, for use cases of collateral for group credit lines or for intra-company payments. Yeah, and why is this important? Because we think this will be the tipping point of acceptance of anything that has to do with new technology, because tokenization and fractionalization happens on the blockchain. so will then the contract management, smart contracts, and so will the payments. So we will see them all this come together. And I think this will be a key moment going forward. Because right now you hear about smart contracts, okay, blockchain, yeah, okay, cool. And then you hear crypto and virtual assets, and some like it, some don't. But what does it really do? But when you see now tokenization, fractionalization, and everything coming together on the blockchain, then all of a sudden we have this moment where we realize, okay, this is something special. Very similar to what we have with Gen AI. Gen AI has been around for many years, but it took OpenAI and ChatGPT to make it translatable for everybody to have this effect. Okay, now I see it, and now I make use case of it. Now we have the use case. So, and the tokenization will maybe have this effect for everything related with chain technology.
Спасибо. Спасибо, Рафаэль. Открою небольшой секрет. Рафаэль хотел к нам присоединиться лично. Послезавтра открывается большая конференция аналогичная.
We know that you actually wanted to join us in person, but we know that you have a conference, similar conference that is happening tomorrow in Hong Kong. Great that you can attend there, and great that you can be with us at least online. Dear friends, thank you all for being with us in person or online, as Raphael is. So it's been a lot of different things that we discussed, and I want to say thank you, really big thanks to the speakers who are with us on our at the plenary session. I want to say big thanks to Natalya and to Olga, and to you, my dear male colleagues. I'll just shake your hand, but the ladies got the gift.